Pluto shows you where you can experience powerlessness. But more importantly, it can also show you where you can get your power back. Now, if you've ever sat and really reflected on your life, I'm sure you've probably come to the realization that there's maybe one area where it's chaotic, there's a lot of endings and beginnings. It's just an area of life that's really intense. That's probably indicative of where Pluto is in your natal chart. Pluto often gets misunderstood. It's the planet of death and rebirth, and sometimes that's where the analysis ends, but it's so much more than that. I love to think of Pluto as your hidden power pack of power. So, if you want to know more about Pluto in your natal chart, stick around. You definitely don't want to miss this. Hello, my loves. As always, I hope that this video finds you well and in excellent spirits. If you're new around here, hi, hello, and welcome. My name is Mel. I'm a professional astrologer and I'm the founder of Divine Feminine Works, where I help people unlock their divinity and discover their magic. So if you're new, welcome. And as always, if you are returning, welcome back. So today's video is all about Pluto in your natal chart. Right now, I find Pluto to be really interesting, not just because of the nature of Pluto itself, but how some astrologers actually view Pluto. Now, if you're unaware, there are very different schools of thought when it comes to astrology. At a very higher level, we have Western astrology versus Eastern astrology. We have tropical astrology versus Vedic astrology. But even within Western astrology, which is what I practice, right? I practice Western traditional Hellenistic astrology, right? You'll have Uranian astrology, you'll have evolutionary astrology, right? Now, not typical, traditional astrology doesn't necessarily give Pluto much importance because Pluto is what's known as a generational planet, right? So when we talk about baby boomers, millennials, Gen Z, that goes by where Pluto is in the sky at the time. So boomers tend to have Pluto in Leo or Virgo. Gen X, elder millennials typically have Pluto in Libra. Gen Z definitely has Pluto in Scorpio, even Sagittarius. And then we have Gen Alpha, which has Pluto in Capricorn, right? So that's a generational planet. And because it's a generational planet, they kind of don't ascribe the qualities of Pluto to us as individuals. They look at it as sort of, what generation are you in? Now, even though I practice traditional astrology, I kind of take a more evolutionary sort of stance when it comes to Pluto. Pluto in your natal chart is all about transformation. Now, transformation comes by way of endings, beginnings, death, rebirth, the cycle of life, and all of the intensity that goes with it, right? But you use that energy on a personal level. And wherever Pluto is in your natal chart is where you can transform. It's literally the area of life that can drive your evolution. And by evolution, I mean change. So Pluto can be unsettling, especially wherever you experience it in your natal chart, because it's driving your evolution on a personal level. Okay. So when you look at it that way, Pluto is hella important. Pluto can tell you how you can go from point A to point B. As painful as that may be, it's literally your evolution. And it's literally planted right there in your natal chart. That's why I think Pluto is so important. And that's why it gets misunderstood because if you're not taking a good hard look at it, you're experiencing chaos, you're experiencing intensity in an area of your life, and you don't necessarily know why. So this video is sort of the gateway to help you start to understand your evolution. So let's really get into it. So first and foremost, let's talk about what Pluto is and what it isn't. Now, again, typically Pluto gets this connotation of death, destruction, and fear. So naturally, people kind of want to stay away from that because although they may be experiencing it in their lives, they don't want to address it. And society kind of fosters that kind of way of thinking, right? If it's negative, don't touch it. If it's dirty and disgusting, leave it alone. Pluto is like, no, this is sort of the cauldron where we are cooking up our evolution. Okay, so it's not just death, doom, and destruction, it's transformation. And like I said before, transformation comes by way of change, of intensity, right? I want you to think of the phrase pressure makes diamond. That's exactly how Pluto energy works, right? You can't have the beautiful diamond and yes, don't come for me. I know the whole diamonds aren't really that precious of a gem, blood diamonds, all of that shit. I know that. But for the sake of this video and the sake of analogy, pressure makes diamonds. And you can't have that beautiful sparkly thing without the cold, the darkness, and more importantly, that pressure. Okay. Now, Pluto also represents a lot of things that we find unsavory in society, like control, manipulation, obsession. Pluto is not afraid to delve into and understand the darker side of life because we live in a dualistic reality. The only reason why you know light is because you know darkness. I'll never forget, this is an aside, but this is something that always stuck with me. You know, back in my college days, my friends and I were a little reckless, right? We'd go to the club, you'd meet a bunch of guys, and, we'd all go out to eat afterward. But we'd have these guys, we get into these guys' cars, don't come for me, no judgment here, it's a judgment-free zone, and like go to the diner after the club, right? Not knowing the inherent danger in getting in a stranger's car who could take you God knows where. But in any event, I'll never forget I knew this one girl who used to do that a lot, and she used to do it by herself. At least my friends and I, we would be together, right? There was strength in numbers, but she would just go off with anybody that she met. And she would just, met a stranger right now. 2 minutes later, she's in the car with them by herself, going God knows where. And I remember saying to her, I was like, listen, you will not know the value of safety until you've been in a really unsafe situation. Now, I wasn't trying to throw shade at her. I wasn't trying to scare her, but it's to show you that you know safety because you know what it's like to be unsafe. And that's sort of how Pluto works. Pluto was like, don't shy away from the dirty, the unsafe, the unsavory. Use it to help you. This is the essence of alchemy. This is the essence of making shit into gold, right? It's not shying away from it, it's using it. And when you understand Pluto in your natal chart, you can start to use whatever life has thrown at you to change and to evolve. Pluto also represents psychological depth. When you really delve into the psyche, that can be a scary place because that's where trauma lives. That's where, a lot of the things that we don't want to think about, that we don't want to address, live. But it's not about addressing it to embrace it and celebrate it. It's using it to change. Like if I had to reiterate that 100 times, I would. You take the energy of Pluto, no matter how dirty, no matter how ugly, in order to find the truth and use that to your advantage to evolve. All right. Like, I can't stress that enough. And again, it's this element of transformation through pressure. But more importantly than that, Pluto is not here to ruin your life. Pluto is here to expose where you feel powerless. Pluto is so intense because it holds so much power. And wherever Pluto is in your natal chart is the seat of your power. Maybe your power is in how you think. Maybe you've got Pluto in the third house. So you know what's going to happen? How you think, your level of intelligence may constantly be challenged to a point where you may feel out of control when it comes to your thoughts. You've internalized what people tell you about yourself, tell you about your level of intelligence, rather than using that to your advantage. I always say, thieves do not rob empty houses. So if you have an area of life where you are experiencing challenges, resistance, people are trying to manipulate you, control you, there's jealousy, obsession, that's where you have your power. That is the house full of value and treasure that people want to rob you of. So again, take a look at your natal chart and see exactly where Pluto is. This is very telling in terms of your own power and even your own power of control. This is also where you can control people, where you can manipulate people. Remember, Pluto goes both ways, and I don't mean it in that way, but it could be positive and it also has a negative side, much like every other placement in your natal chart. And speaking of placements in your natal chart, if you're brand spanking new to astrology, or if you've looked at your natal chart, but you really want to know it and more importantly, understand it, then you will want to get my digital product, which is called Astrology Translated. In the very quickest way that I could describe it, it teaches you how to read any placement in your natal chart in 25 minutes or less. It's quick, it's fast, it's very comprehensive, and it's literally my formula of how to delineate any placement in your natal chart and not only know it, because astrology is a language. That's why I call it Astrology Translated. It's a language. You just have to learn how to read it, how to understand it. And my product, Astrology Translated, helps you do just that. So it allows you to start understanding each placement so you could put the entire picture together. It's literally a 25-minute video training plus an accompanying PDF guide that can really help you start to understand, know, and translate your natal chart so you could use it to live a better life experience. So if you're interested in that, the link to Astrology Translated is in the description box below, as well as tagged to this video. All right, so let me demonstrate what this could look like, sort of give you a taste of Astrology Translated here as we talk about Pluto in your natal chart. So going back to my example before, let's say that you have Pluto in the third house. So now my formula you look at it by planet. Here we're talking about Pluto. House, which I mentioned is the third house, and sign. Let's say you've got Gemini as your third house. So you're in Aries rising. You've got Gemini as your third house. You wouldn't, okay, this is very much an example because anyone who I'm talking to right now would not have Pluto in Gemini. You would have to be like 300 years old to have Pluto in Gemini. But this is just an example, so take it as such. Aries rising, you've got Pluto and Gemini in the third house. Your intellect, how you think, how you express yourself, even how you learn is your seat of power. Your mind is intense. Not only that, you very much have the gift of gab and the power of persuasion. So, if you're someone who is insecure about your level of intelligence, that Pluto in Gemini will attract people who will constantly challenge you. Maybe they wanted to call you special. Maybe they wanted to put you in special ed classes. Maybe they keep saying you're stupid or you're dumb or you don't understand. Meanwhile, you are sitting on a gold mine of intellect. Or conversely, you're someone who knows you're fucking genius. You know that you're smart and you use it to manipulate people. You seek out people who may not be as bright mentally in order to control them and in order to manipulate them. So you see how that works? We've got the what, which is the planet Pluto. We've got the where, which is the third house of Gemini. And we have the how, which is, well, I said third house, but the how, which is the sign, which is Gemini. So that's my formula, and that's everything that I'm going to teach you in Astrology Translated. So get it sooner rather than later so you can really start understanding not your natal chart, but the language of astrology. All right. So hopefully that made sense. Hopefully you are starting to understand how Pluto in your natal chart really works. And again, it is the seat of your power. So let's take some other examples. Let's say you've got Pluto in the seventh house. Relationships. Relationships are where you experience not only power, but you can experience manipulation and control. Pluto in the 10th. This could be where you experience power struggles and control issues in terms of your career and in terms of your public visibility. Pluto in the first, you are very much a disruptor. Your very presence probably triggers people. But that presence is what can help transform you and transform others, especially when you show up in spaces. All right. So I want you to understand the extent of your Pluto, how powerful it is, and how powerful you truly are once you tap into the energy. All right. So sound off. I want you to tell me, where is Pluto in your natal chart? Where's your power? And where do you struggle with control? And ultimately, where are you experiencing transformation? So comment below and let me know where Pluto is in your natal chart. All right, my loves, that's pretty much all I've got for you for this video on Pluto. I sincerely hope that you found this information valuable. I hope that it piqued your interest in terms of learning more about your natal chart. And if so, don't forget to grab Astrology Translated. Now, if you love this content, if you love how I deliver it, if you love how you're learning about astrology, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe. Specifically, share this video with someone who needs to know about their Pluto, especially if they're experiencing some turmoil and some chaos in their life right now. And if you really enjoy this content and you really enjoy this channel, there's a couple of ways that you can definitely help support this channel and help support my work. Number one, if you're watching this on mobile, hit that hype button. That hype button lets YouTube know that you like this content, and it'll definitely push it out to more people who would like it as well. So if you're watching on mobile, hit that like button. Okay. Number two, subscribe and set notifications if you haven't already. Number three, if you want more of this kind of content in a deeper sort of way, then consider joining my channel membership, which is called the Inner Orbit. You not only get early access to videos, but you get members only content as well. And I'm about to implement something called Chart Lab, where I will be going live within this membership probably once a month. We'll not only dissect natal charts, but you have the opportunity to ask questions about your particular natal chart as well. So if you're interested, subscribe to the channel. I would greatly appreciate it. I'm so thankful for all of you for your support. There's definitely more of this to come. All right, my loves. Thanks so much for tuning into this video, and I definitely hope to see you in the next one. Take care.